Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Sunday, May the 24th, 2026, and the time is 7:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm just here to give you a little bit of news, so come on in. I'm sure some of these things you all have already heard, but I want to get this information out because this is Sunday, and we've heard the statement that you will go to sleep on a Sunday and wake up Monday to a whole new reality. This is something that I was actually taught by Andy Scheckman, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, that it's a statement, geopolitically and mostly economically, that you will go to sleep on Sunday and wake up Monday morning to a whole new reality, whereby people thought that everything was going to operate like it always has, and that there would be no changes. But another thing that Andy Scheckman always says is little by little by little, and then all at once. In other words, things change slowly over time, and then you wake up and it's a whole new reality. Little by little by little, and then all at once, we see that things are shifting. So join in, family, check in. I love you more. Grand evening, grand rising, grand afternoon, grand evening, grand night, depending upon where you're hailing from. Please let me know that you can hear me. I had to buy more mobile data because I'm on my phone so much, either reporting or investigating, that I consistently run out of space. So if you can hear me, hi Cleveland, that's my hometown. If you can hear me, please put a 1 in the chat. You can hear me well? Great. Thank you. Reverend's in the house. Thank you. You all can hear me. Texas is here. Hi. Someone says, hello, my beautiful friend. Family, it's so good to see everybody. It is now 7:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And a few things has happened over the weekend. Check in. I didn't even put this in the topic about the White House shooting. Okay, I believe it was the White House. There was a shooting on 14th Street. And I think it was the number 17 somewhere in that report. I don't remember. If you remember what they said about 17. I don't know if it was the 17th building, but it was on 14th Street. I thought that was fascinating. They're always speaking in codes. There was some type of shooting. Yes, you can hear me. 17 is the number for Q. And 17 really just lets us know that there's a military operation. Whenever you see 17, you know that something's happening that's being staged, but the white hats or the military is in control. So when they say 17, they're actually letting you know that whatever you see happening is central casting. Yes, 14 is the decline of one king and the rise of another. I agree. Wendy Walker, thank you for that, because Jacob Bay taught us that. So we can see that they're consistently dropping Qs like 17 Q. There was a shooting. The number 17 was involved on 14th Street, again, letting us know that it's the fall of one king or a fall or a collapse of one system and a rise of another. This is why I wanted to come on to talk to you today, because things are happening, but a lot of people just don't know due to the central casting. But there is a collapse that's occurring. And here's the thing about kingdoms, is that kingdoms only last for a certain time period. Everything comes to an end. Grand evening. And what we see happening, thank you for the gold coin. Thank you. Somebody sent me a gift. What we see happening is the collapse of the old guard, the collapse of a system, the collapse of the financial system, the collapse of the United States Incorporated, and everything that they allowed to happen, including the invasion of our borders. So there were people from all over the world coming to America, getting all type of benefits that the Americans aren't even getting. It broke my heart this weekend to watch videos of people living in the sewers. Americans, whether they call themselves European American, Black American, Indigenous American, people on this landmass living in the sewer because they can't afford rent. Meanwhile, the government, the United States Incorporated, was going out to recruit people to come to our great country, giving them grants, loans, jobs, businesses, and opportunities that were not even afforded to us. But there was a breaking new ruling over the weekend. USCIS sent out a memo to all the attorneys and told them that anybody that's in America trying to get a change of status will now have to go back to their own country to get a change of status. They have to return home and go to the United States Embassy in their country. So a lot of attorneys are perplexed. They're saying this. They're saying that the United States government is saying that there were loopholes that people were taking advantage of. Well, no duh. And the immigrant attorneys and judges were allowing this to happen, as well as the government. So if people were here on a student visa and their time was up, they would just overstay their student visa, apply for a change of status, and stay here, get a job, start families, live their lives like Americans, vote, get benefits, and wait for the green card. If somebody was here on a visit, just a visit visa, a tourist visa, and their 1 week, 2 week, couple months, whatever it was over, they would just stay here and do a change of status. Well, now United States, USCIS, immigration is saying that can't happen any longer. You may not stay here and change your status. The government can't afford this any longer. Why can't the government afford it? Number one, the United States Incorporated, we already know, is being dismantled. The Supreme Court of the United States in 2024 overturned the Chevron doctrine, which had given the United States government, the United States Incorporated, unlimited powers, deemed the United States government as treasonous and unconstitutional, and ruled that they must be overtaken or dismantled. President Trump came in 2025 after that ruling in 2024, shut down the government, sent out the military to start making arrests immediately, and gave people the opportunity to go back home if they had overstayed their visa, self-deportation. And at the same time, he started downsizing the government by offering workers the opportunity to retire early. Now, he didn't just fire people. He didn't just let people go. He gave them the opportunity to take early retirement, severance pay. Okay, but there are some people who got the axe, like the people at the Department of Education. I know administrators that won't have a job in August. They were getting federally funded. Some of the gifted programs for special needs children, some of those will get cut off because the government doesn't exist anymore. In 2025, President Trump signed 2025, he actually signed 225 executive orders. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of people didn't take him seriously. They thought, it's still got to go past Congress. Congress can veto it. No, ma'am, no, sir. Once the president signs that executive order, it stands. Judges are upset because they keep trying to challenge President Trump, but they're losing. Little by little, and then all at once. People were just getting away with things. But under the Obama administration and under the Biden administration, people were being deported. We just didn't know. While they were being deported, Biden was flying in hundreds of thousands of people. But this has been going on for decades, for centuries that our borders have been flooded. So USCIS just came out with this breaking memo just this weekend saying that no longer are people going to be able to do a change of status in America. They have to go back to their home country and do a change of status through the United States Embassy there, and all their files go with them. So the immigration attorneys, whom I follow, are now saying, stop, don't lie. Who knows what they've been allowing them to do and helping them? Don't lie, because the government knows everything you've done. They know you've overstayed your visa. They know you overstayed your work visa. They know that some of your work visas have ended. They know that you overstayed your tourism visa. They know about any crimes you committed. So please don't lie, is what the immigration attorneys are saying. Interesting thing is that some of these immigration attorneys, first of all, many of them are immigrants, and they've been serving immigrants all over the country because immigration is a federal situation. So they've been working to keep immigrants in our country, overstaying visas, breaking the rules, statutes, codes, and policies for as long as they want. And then they would take them, if they went to the judges would help the attorneys. And some of these attorneys are married to the judges, so they would bring the cases, their own cases, not just immigration cases, any cases, to their husbands and wives who are judges. And if it was found out, they would just get a slap on the wrist. You know what happened now? What's happening now? President Trump is firing and arresting judges and now hiring deportation judges. Those are constitutional judges. Firing administrative judges who had allowed people to overstay their time here, and now hiring deportation judges. So there's this thing going around the internet where people are saying, oh, it's not fair. People have overstayed their visas, but they've gotten jobs. They've paid taxes. They're voting. They started families. They should be able to stay. They've been able to stay in the past, but it's a new sheriff in town, like literally. And this new sheriff, President Donald John Tavius Trump, as we affectionately call him over here, and the government, the benevolent republic that's now being restored, is abiding by the laws of the land. So a lot of the immigrants who had come here got beautiful, amazing opportunities, but they did not understand that temporary means just that. It's just for a limited amount of time, and when that time is up, you're supposed to go back home. But they were getting away with the loopholes, is what the immigration attorneys call it, and allowed to stay here and just do a change of status or seek asylum. Some of them would do a change of status to go for the green card. When I tell you people are worried because they've been getting away for decades and centuries, just overstaying their visa, living the American dream, while some Americans can't even afford rent, while veterans are on the street homeless, while some of our children are strung out on drugs or shooting each other because they don't know how to cope with the system and don't understand why they don't have opportunities afforded to them when they're Americans. And so the immigration attorneys would just break the law and allow this to happen, but it can't. So they would apply for the green card, a change of status, even though their time here was over, or They would apply either on their own or ask their employer to apply, or they would apply for what's called a VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. That means if you are married to an American and he commits any type of abuse, quote, end quote, whether y'all just don't get along or he said something you don't like, you can interpret that as verbal abuse, or he told you he's tired of this relationship, he's going to divorce you. They would call that abuse and say he's trying to retaliate against me. If he said, I want you to go back home because this isn't working out, then the women would go to the attorney and the government and say, I need a VAWA, Violence Against Women Act application so I can get the green card on my own. Or if maybe he didn't agree with some of the, financial decisions. Or maybe there were some cases where there was literally legitimate violence going on in the home. Instead of packing up and going back to their mother and father, these women would apply for a VAWA, Violence Against Women Act green card. Some of them stay in the house with their husbands, stay in the house. Because by law or statutes, codes, and policies, you can be an abused wife as an immigrant, stay with your husband, and the process would go through and he would not even know. These attorneys would allow the women to file this, talk about how violent he is, maybe even have police reports against him, and get a green card on her own while she's pressuring him to give her a work visa. He doesn't even know what's happening. Put her on his credit cards and put her on the lease or buy them and the mortgage in her name, add her name to it, because all the while she has a plan to prove, because you have to prove that you lived at some point with the spouse when you came over here. So a lot of these women were plotting on the husbands. In fact, they had a plan before they got here. Right before Trump came, let me get clear. Between 2020 and 2026, you saw an increase in the VAWA applications, Violence Against Women Act. But right before Trump came on, you saw 160% increase of women applying for the Violence Against Women Act. And then you saw men apply for the Violence Against Women Act, saying, I need to be able to qualify for the green card on my own because my wife's abusing me. Then you saw a 2,000% increase. No, not 2,000, excuse me. Was it 2,000? Several 100%. I'll put that. I can't remember. I think it was 2,000% increase of parents. I'll just say a significant, over 100% increase. It was in the thousands of parents applying for a VAWA, Violence Against Women Act green card. It's where they would go to the government and say, my children that I came to visit so that I can go to Disney World, because you have to apply to come over on a tourist visa. Maybe I came to visit my immigrant children on a tourism visa, or I came just to go to Disney World and I overstayed my visa. Now I'm all of a sudden applying for a VAWA. I think it was 2,200% increase of parents right before Trump came in, applying for a VAWA application so they can get the green card on their own. So here's the thing. If you came to visit your child and your child is beating you up or abusing you, why couldn't you have gone back home? And I'm questioning, what type of raising did you do if there's an increase of children all of a sudden beating up their parents? And now you have to apply for a green card to stay in a country that doesn't belong to you. So you see, people were using these loopholes like the Violence Against Women Act because that would expedite the green card. Because if you're being abused by an American or a United States citizen, the government has to protect you from the boogeyman. And they would give you food stamps, housing. You can expedite and get a work permit, get that expedite. You get English classes, all while you're living in the home of the abuser if you choose to, or you can move out because you get housing now. All of this was on the dime of the government. Some people would say on the dime of the taxpayers. Some people would say the government was just shelling out money that they had because countries around the world was buying up the United States Treasury bonds. But now countries all over the world have dropped United States Treasury bonds. They're no longer buying the Treasury bonds. They're not longer buying the Treasury bonds of the states that were incorporated, the cities that were incorporated, or the United States Treasury bonds. No more buying. They dropped the bonds. So the government doesn't have any money and it's insolvent. United States Treasury Department ruled in 2025 that the United States Incorporated is insolvent. They can't pay their debt. So all of these people were here living illegally, trying to make United States citizens and Americans and sovereign nationals feel sorry for them, claiming that they can't go back home. Now it's being discovered that many of them were lying. So if, in fact, you really, really need a green card, USCIS, immigration said, fine, go home to your country and apply at the United States Embassy. But know that everything that you've ever done in America follows you. If you overstayed your visa, it follows you, because a lot of them did. If you were on a student visa and you stayed here somehow and your time was up, that follows you. All of these things, and your government is going to be notified. Interesting times that we live in. Now, the Violence Against Women Act is very, very interesting, because all of a sudden you can claim that you've been abused. Some of them may have been abused. It's just kind of hard to believe that, thousands. In fact, there are numbers that say there are hundreds of thousands of people that have overstayed their visa, and most likely 1 million at least that have overstayed their visa. But a significant portion of them have said that they had to apply for the Violence Against Women Act, even if they're men and their parents. And there's an influx of those coming into USCIS, the immigration, and a influx of attorneys having to handle those cases. They can't handle them all. Judges can't handle them all. So this is the breaking news. If you follow immigration attorneys online, you'll see they're taking to their platforms and saying, they're trying to tell them, don't panic. Just join our lawsuit, because we're going to sue Donald Trump's administration. Good luck with that. Let me put this nose ring in. So they're taking the money of the immigrants, knowing full well they're most likely going to lose their case. And the ones that want to stay over here will likely pay those fees. I see you. Somebody said, I struggle every day. I see you, Justice. Meanwhile, I struggle every day working 12 hours and pension not matched at all. You knew a woman who sponsored her husband from overseas. His application kept getting denied. She paid the immigration lawyer a lot of money, and they found a way to put it through. Money talks. Money talks. Yes, money talks. And the interesting thing to me is people are forcing their way here when Americans are saying we're fed up. Like, if you're here lawfully, okay, we'll deal with that. But you're still vying for the same resources and you have a home to go to. That is so incredibly disrespectful. To overstay your time and to be okay to stay in a place where basically the Americans are saying, we've had enough. It's like somebody coming to your home. First of all, you might not have invited them, but coming to your home, let's say you did invite people to come into your home. And then you say, I'm ready for you to go. I can't afford you and my family. And them just saying, no, I'm not leaving your house. I'm going to stay here. Doesn't matter if you want me to go or not. But this is all changing because of these loopholes that were allowed. It doesn't matter if people don't understand it or not. An invasion of people flooding your borders, coming through your airspace, coming through underground tunnels, that's war. You want to talk about a civil war? You have all nations over here. Many, many different nations over here vying for the resources that were slated for the American people. You have people here starting businesses. I told you all the other day, 80 to 90% of all the motels are owned by Indians, East Indians from the Asian continent of India. And they say 80% of those are from one family called the Patels. They not only bought up most of the motels, they have gas stations, and they run all the way up through to government. That's just the motels. Then you have the nail industry, the beauty industry, that's run by other types of Asians, the Koreans and other Asians, and now the Arabs are getting into that. You have convenience stores. You have professionals. If you look into all the industries, different industries, Americans have been pushed out while the government has invited others to come and given them not only jobs, but given them their husbands' jobs, allowed them to have babies here, and their babies can get, citizenship through birthright citizenship. But a lot, little by little by little, then all at once, it's all changing. So people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Donald Trump is crazy. What is happening here? What's happening here is now you actually have to follow the law. And I keep saying it over and over. The United States Incorporated has statutes, policies, and codes. They don't have laws. Passing bills, statutes, codes, policies, that's all legality. And they can grant you citizenship, but they can't make you an American. That's natural born. The United States Incorporated can grant you citizenship and privileges. They can't grant you rights, and they can't grant you sovereignty. You cannot be an American unless you sprung from the soil here. It's in your blood. You can be a United States citizen, and this is what is very traumatizing to people. They don't understand. They can't comprehend it. They think you're being harsh when you tell them the law. Well, there's an old saying that goes that when you know better, you do better. There's also a saying that says ignorance of the law is no excuse. In other words, you may not have known it, but you should have known it. You should have done your research. And here's the thing. A lot of people who overstayed their visa did know it was wrong. But they found a loophole that the British Accredited Registry bar attorneys who work for the British Crown and their administrative judges, who are administrators and not really lawful judges, have allowed them to do. Break laws, fly over here, have a baby. Now the baby's a United States citizen. They get all these privileges. And then the parents come and live vicariously through the child and get all these privileges. But you know what's happening now? Welfare is getting cut off. It's not just poor people that's getting food stamps. It's not just poor people in fact, a lot of women, single women with children, are getting pushed out of Section 8 housing because a lot of Section 8 housing was going to immigrants who overstayed their visa. And some of them didn't overstay their visa, but they were still getting handouts. There's a whole statement called Ferraris and food stamps, where rich immigrants from East India, Somalia, even though they say they're poor, but they're bilking the government for billions of dollars. Y'all heard the reports, bilking the government for billions of dollars, saying they're funding daycare centers that don't exist. They're riding nice cars, Ferraris, and getting food stamps. But a lot of people didn't know it because you get a card, an EBT card that looks just like a credit card. So they would just run that credit card. Just silently. I'm talking hundreds and thousands of dollars per person in the house. So they would get a benefit, their husband would get a benefit, their children would get a benefit, and anybody else, aunt, uncle, grandma, cousin, whoever they brought to America, all getting food stamps. Not everybody, don't get me wrong. Enough of them, so much so that it's breaking the system. In addition to it's time up for the United States Incorporated, it's time for them to collapse. It's the end. Speaking of the end, if you haven't watched my video with Andy Schectman that I did this morning, I posted this morning. It was a compilation of interviews that he and I had done over the last couple of years. That video is an hour long, but it's a compilation of interviews. It's so informative, where Andy Schectman and I foretold the collapse of the United States dollar. We talked about BRICS, the BRICS coalition, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, South Africa, and Project Sandman, and how there was an agreement for all these nations to come together and agree to stop trading with the dollar, but to use their own currency backed by gold. We talked about this in 2022. And Andy had been warning people, get silver and gold, while it was just a few dollars an ounce. So in that compilation of interviews that I did, that's why you would see the video and it's like 1 minute I had on red, then the next minute I had on black, because my son chopped up a couple videos that I did with Andy, put them all together, and the conversation was seamless. My son Dex Lattimore, the economist, did a fantastic job with that. Compiling those interviews with Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, and I did. We talked about country after country dropping the United States dollar, using their own gold-backed currency, and we talked about the return of the gold standard in 2022. That's what got my first channel shut down. We talked about the BRICS growing, the coalition against the United States Incorporated. We talked about Ghana's new gold coin that they announced, Zimbabwe's new gold-backed currency that they unveiled. We talked about the Iraqi dinar and how some people and nations were accumulating the Iraqi dinar, and how if and when that revalues, people would become extremely wealthy. This is Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, an A+ rating company with no customer complaints, had sold over $9 billion in sales, a billionaire, coming to the Dr. Kia Pruitt show 4 years ago, over the last 4 years, from 2022 onward, to talk about the collapse of the system, why the gold standard is important, and how the Iraqi dinar will likely revalue, and make a lot of people very wealthy. We're not just talking about somebody who just stumbled upon some information and thought they would come on and say everybody should do this, that, and the third. We're talking about a man who started a precious metals company with his dad, David Schectman, and have been doing this for 4 decades, nearly 40 years, that allowed me to be an affiliate with him and would come on the show to talk about all these things. This is why I had 8 channels shut down, because we were foretelling information and warning people. And it's interesting because rich people could talk about it on their channel, but everyday people would get their channel shut down. Well, I should say some rich people could talk about it, because Peter Schiff would talk about gold for a long time. He's an Austrian economist and not a Keynesian economist. The Keynesian system is the economic system that was operating. So when you have people like Peter Schiff saying gold is the standard, they would try to silence him, but he kept moving forward. He could keep his podcast going, but Dr. Kia Pruitt was not somebody that could, for some reason, fight the system and win. But thank God we still have those videos. And when President Trump came back, I got the opportunity to come back and, start a new channel, and also to bring back up my old channel that had been cut off for like 3 years. That channel got cut off, my first channel, when I read David Schechtman's letter. That's Andy's father. They're co-owners and co-founders of Miles Franklin's Precious Metals Company. I read his letter telling everybody, please get gold and silver. David Schechtman was saying, do it, because the big banks are accumulating gold in record numbers. Nations all across the world are accumulating gold, whereas before they were pegging their currency, their local currency, to the United States dollar. But Andy came on my show, and his father, David Schechtman, put out a newsletter warning the people to pay attention to the money and follow the money. If China, which had been a superpower 3 times before in history, was accumulating gold in record numbers and accumulating gold secretively, and all nations across the world was joining the BRICS coalition, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and agreed through Project Sandman to stop trading with the dollar and use their own local currency, something was going on. So David Schechtman, Andy Schechtman's father, was saying, get silver and gold while you can, because then you're positioning yourself for the collapse. You please watch that video not the one with David, but the one I did with Andy earlier today. It's on the video section of the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show on YouTube, because Andy dropped so many gems. He talked about how China had been a superpower before. They were accumulating gold in record numbers, so they were trying to be a superpower again. He talked about how you should be your own bank. I asked him, can we trust the banks with our money? And we talked about how there was a time when you could do bank bail-ins. The banks could do bail-ins because if they got in any trouble, they would just use their money, keep your money to make themselves whole. And we talked about how, even though that supposedly changes, what happens if they hold it for a time period until it's released again? What happens if there's a glitch in the system? So we talked about how it's the best thing better to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So in other words, keep enough money in the bank to pay your bill. He didn't say this, I'm saying that. Keep enough money in the bank to pay the bills. You don't know how the deep state's going to clap back to the takedown and dismantling of the system. I know everything's mirrored on a quantum financial system, and it might be held for a period of time and then it'll be released. But what are you going to do when it's held? Because I've had my money held a few times, or there's been a glitch, or I couldn't do transactions on the phone. I've had Cash App to hold my money. I've had banks that say, we're sorry, there's something happening with our system right now. We'll get back to you and try it again in a few hours. So what Dr. Kia Pruitt has encouraged my family to do, because Andy Schechtman and I talked about that. What do you do if the banks that remain that are not Basel III compliant, and we did talk about Basel III compliancy as well, what are you supposed to do? So I told my family, put enough in to keep enough in to pay the bills, have some cash on hand at all times, because they can have a banking holiday, which, Memorial Day is probably a banking holiday where the banks are shut down, or they could the system could shut down, ATMs could stop working. You never know. So you should always have some cash on hand if you can afford it, and put enough in the bank to pay the bills. Also, you want to have some cash on hand because with all this mass deportation happening, you got people fleeing houses, apartments, commercial properties, businesses. When the system crashes, this will be a buying opportunity for you. Additionally, you want to put some of your money into hard assets like silver, gold, copper, or land. Or put your money in a business. Find a way to invest in yourself. Another thing Andy Sheck talked about is that we should look at silver and gold as wealth, not just as an investment. Because he said, Kia, Andy's in his 50s. He said, I've been in this business since I was 19. And my dad told me, we're going to start this business together, but you have to promise me that every 2 weeks, you're going to buy some gold. I don't care how much it is, you will buy some gold. And Andy said, I have kept that vow to my father to this day. And his dad actually started the business with his 19-year-old son. It's a family operated business. And he told me before, he said, people that say they don't work with their families, I can't relate to that. I only work with family and people that I've maybe been to college with, people I trust that I've known most of my life. But he told me when he started the business, his dad told him accumulate gold however much you can every 2 weeks. And he said, I've honored that. He said, but I hope I never have to cash it in, Kia, because that's something I want to pass down to my children. He told me that often. Look at gold and silver not as an investment, but as, just something you can invest in, but as wealth that you'll pass down to your children. He said, but if I ever have to cash it in, at least I have something to cash in. Because here's the thing about gold and silver. Right now, gold is $4,600 an ounce. Silver is $79 an ounce. Do you know that just earlier today, it was less than that? Friday, this is Sunday. Friday, I know because I called up my broker at Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. Friday, silver was $74 an ounce. Right now, it's about $79 an ounce. Gold was less than $4,600. Now it's $4,600, almost $4,700 an ounce. $4,700. Do you know why it went up overnight? Because 5 o'clock p.m. Sunday is when the Forex markets open. 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time Sunday is when the Forex market opens. So often you'll see the precious metals price change. Overnight, Friday and Saturday, silver was $74 an ounce. And one day it went up $5. So if I bought silver Friday at $74 an ounce, or just yesterday, it's now $79 an ounce. What's it going to be tomorrow? What's it going to be after the war? Because right now, if the war in Iran, there's a ceasefire. And President Trump said they're in peace talks. They're talking about peace agreements, but he said he's not going to be too quick to make any arrangements because some things take time. Well, typically, when you have a ceasefire or you have peace, people become more relaxed. They feel like economically things are going to go back to normal or at least have some stability, and they'll start investing in gold and silver again. When there's turbulence, some people look at the dollar losing its value and look at inflation going up, and they're like, I need to sell off my assets so I can afford to live. So you might see the prices of silver and gold go down as people sell off their assets so they can pay to live. People with money, on the other hand, would say, I have enough money. I don't have to sell off my assets. I'm going to rush to gold and silver because gold and silver are a hedge against inflation. Because the dollar that I have today, let's just talk about gas prices. 2 weeks ago, I could fill up my tank with $30. 2 weeks later, it takes me $40 or $50 to fill up my tank. That means my dollar has lost its spending power, like it's losing value. Let me say another thing. Let's say I have some discretionary funds. I can even take those United States dollars that's losing value because all countries all over the world have decided to stop trading with the dollar. They're no longer buying United States Treasury bonds. The dollar losing its value. It doesn't have the same spending power it just had 2 weeks ago, even, let alone 10 years ago. It's losing its value. I have to pay more to buy food. I have to pay more to buy gas. I have to pay more to live. It's losing its value. But I can take those dollars and save them by putting them in gold or silver, because the gold and silver prices, even though they might fluctuate, they will increase. That's another thing Andy Schectman and I talked about. I asked him, could gold revalue? He said, could it? It's not a matter of could it. Gold will revalue, because gold is lawful money, because gold is a hedge against inflation. And in order to pay off the debts that's on the books, you have to revalue gold. In fact, this is something that was what Andy Schectman said. I've learned from other economists that in order to pay off all the debt on the books here in the United States of America, you have to revalue gold between $10,000 and $100,000 per ounce. Gold is $4,600. That means it's got at least $6,000 more to go up. So I asked Andy Schectman, I said, Andy, when you said that it's not a question of whether gold will revalue, you said it will revalue. I said, so if gold is going to go up in value, can we surmise that silver will also go up in value? He said, absolutely, because central banks are not just accumulating gold, they're accumulating silver as well. That's an indication that things are changing. The people may not see it. He said, but I'm here to let the people know what's been going on. He said, I've been shouting this for years, and it seemed like nobody was listening to me. You see why I was honored to have him on my show? So I'm just saying, like, if you want to know how you can maintain your value of the dollar that you have, where whatever you have right now can actually go up in value, consider silver and gold. You can go to your local coin shop, or you can go to my affiliate, Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. Listen to Andy's talk on my show if you want to get a feel for what he's talking about. You can reach the brokers at Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company by calling 952-929-7006. That's 952-929-7006, or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. and let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, because you will get the best prices in the industry. Now, I've bought some things from my local coin shop, and I've bought from Miles Franklin. And what I've noticed is that the prices are higher with my local company, because they get some of their inventory from wholesalers, but they usually get it from estate sales in your local community. But online dealers have working relationships with wholesalers, and they have silver and gold in storage, and they have those working relationships where they can get gold and silver right away, and they can get it at a very good price. So if you call Miles Franklin, 952-929-7006, or email them info@milesfranklin.com, be sure to let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you. Andy knows who I am. You can see he's been on my show. I got lots of videos with him on my old channel, only some of which I put on this newer channel that's been up for about almost a year. And I've been doing this work for a long time, almost a decade. And let me tell you this, when I first bought my first ounce of silver, it was $14 an ounce. In 2017, I think it was. Then the next year, 2018, silver took a dive for like $10. between $10 and $11, and I only had a few dollars because I was on disability. I had left my job. I was on disability. I was very sick at the time, but I was like, oh, I got a limited income or small. And I said, let me stop saying limited. Whatever God gave me is what I deserve, is what I said. Whatever I have in my coffers is what I deserve, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be, but I'm going to avail myself of every opportunity I can. So I bought a few more coins when it went down to $10 and $11 an ounce. Those same coins now are $79 an ounce. What can you invest in that would give you that type of rate of return? So silver and gold are rising. And as they rise, it's just an indication of what's happening to the dollar. There's a basic economic principle that says as the dollar decreases in value, silver and gold raises in value. Silver and gold are lawful money. So the United States dollar has to collapse. The Federal Reserve central banking system that was printing out money no longer exists. People keep saying they're going to keep printing out money. How? They're insolvent. The Federal Reserve central banking system is insolvent and bankrupt, just like the United States Incorporated. Even though people don't know this because the mainstream media has not reported it, it's so. This is why the Supreme Court ruled not only did they overturn the Chevron doctrine that gave the United States government unlimited powers and said that it was treasonous and unlawful and must be dismantled, but that was in June of 2024. In July of 2025, the Supreme Court of the United States, the constitutional judges that were there, ruled that state-sponsored banks can operate independently from the Federal Reserve central banking system. Somebody's trying to throw Dr. Kia Pruitt off balance. I didn't even see what they're saying. So when the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that state-sponsored banks could operate independently from and outside of the Federal Reserve central banking system, they went further and said they also can issue out their own gold-backed currencies. Somebody came underneath my video and said, don't y'all listen to her. States are corporations too. States don't have the authority to print out their own gold-backed currencies. And I just let it go because people don't know that the republic has been restored. That means that states are going back to the way it's supposed to be, because under the republic, states are their own country. They make their own rules. This is why the Constitution said local communities have more power, they have more power than the federal government, because the federal government only has the power that the people give it. The states, the local communities have power now. They're their own nation. Under the republic, our lawful government. That's why state-sponsored banks can now operate independently from the Federal Reserve central banking system and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. The Federal Reserve no longer exists. The IRS building is closed. I have to put up that video. I'm just waiting to press the button to push that one. Which y'all know that anyway. The government is being dismantled. Trump closed the government in 2025 when he came back. After he issued out 225 executive orders, created the sovereign wealth fund for the American people, comprised of stocks, bonds, real estate, silver, gold, all different precious metals, rare earth minerals, and money from trades and tariffs. And he said, I'm creating a sovereign wealth fund because I'm going to invest in the American people when it's time, little by little, and then all at once. When it's time, the sovereign wealth fund is to invest in the people, to invest in the infrastructure, and to invest in other ways to bring in money for America. This is why he created the sovereign wealth fund in 2025. He signed 225 executive orders create the sovereign wealth fund, put Elon Musk over the Department of Government Efficiency called Doge, and started immediately downsizing the government. He got rid of a lot of U.S. aid workers. He took inventory of U.S. aid and found out that the money that was supposed to be going to other governments, developing countries, to help them when they were in trouble, was actually lining the pockets of the politicians in these other countries and here in the Americas. He cut off U.S. aid, put a halt to it, fired many workers. And he said not only were they lining their pockets, they were teaching people in developing countries liberal agendas that went totally against their culture. Then he started telling people, look, we have to downsize government. So we're going to give you a buyout. Interestingly, Farmer Dre, who I've had on my show to teach us how to prepare for an emergency, look for that video, how do you prepare for an emergency? How do you prepare for an EBS? He said he was affected by the government shutdown and he took the early buyout. He is ex-military, former military, he's a veteran, and this guy is 31, young man, and he was working for the government. He took the buyout and bought him 5 acres of land, he and his wife, and now they're teaching people how to live off the land, grow their own food, handle your own cattle, prepare your own cattle, how to fish, how to live off the grid. Amazing family. Family of 6, young man, 31 years old. So when people were losing their jobs and taking the early buyout, and while some of them were online complaining, and we understand why, because that's your livelihood. Others were saying, I'm going to avail myself of the opportunity to use the funds that I have to do something amazing, to start a business, to buy hard assets like land or precious metals that I can use for the benefit of my family and the tribe and pass down to my children and my posterity or my future generations. So things are happening. Immigration laws are changing. People that overstayed their visa are being deported. People that overstayed their visa and did a change of status now have to go back home, their country. If they say I have to seek asylum because I'm scared, they have to prove it. Because a lot of them could just say I'm scared. And they didn't have to prove it. They didn't have to prove that their countries were going through war. They didn't have to prove their countries were war torn. They didn't have to prove anything. They could just stay and say, I need to seek asylum. They could just say that there's a lot of homelessness or there's lack of opportunity. Meanwhile, Americans can say the same thing. There's a lot of homelessness. I don't have the same opportunities. I'm hungry. But if you go visit as an American in another country, when your visit is over or your stay or your whatever reason why you're there is over, you still had to return back home. But they could just say the economy is bad and they were allowed to stay. They would seek asylum as if there was war going on in their country. Now, some countries may have really been in the middle of wars. I'm just saying people were using it as a loophole, just saying I need to seek asylum. They would come on a humanitarian visa, which they were only allowed to stay here for 2 years and they were supposed to go back home. And then when that time ran out, they would just seek asylum, apply for a green card. And before Trump came in, they would be granted that. But now a lot of them are just here waiting, hoping they'll get it. The Trump administration is saying, we're putting a freeze on asylum, declaring you need refugee status, because he said we've had refugees here from all over the world who are bilking billions of dollars from the American people, claiming to have businesses that they didn't have, or having legitimate businesses, but not investing in the American people, because then they would mostly hire only their own people that they would bring over here. Or even if they hired 1 or 2 American people, they still wasn't investing in the community. They were sending that money back home. So asylum applications are on hold. Violence Against Women Act applications where you can get a green card without your spouse that brought you here, or without your parent, without your children that brought you here. You can seek asylum through the VAWA, Violence Against Women Act, and be able to work, get a work permit, and get government benefits. Those are on pause, on hold. Some people with green cards are being investigated. He's opening up even people who had green cards, because the system knows all the people that got the green card unlawfully or illegally even. They know. And guess what? The attorneys that were in cahoots with them, they're getting arrested. Judges are getting arrested. But attorneys and judges are illegal anyway, unlawful, excuse me, because they work for the British Crown, the British Accredited Registry. They don't work for we the people. So they all have to cease and desist. There's going to be a massive cleanup, little by little, and then all at once. And if people don't believe that can happen, allow me to call to the stand something called COVID. Mr. COVID, would you please speak to the people? Because one day we were told that there were a few cases in November 2019. Then by December, cases were starting to climb. We heard about a few more cases in January, but people were told, don't worry. Then February of 2020 came. Trump was still the president. Mike Pompeo, who was the Secretary of State, went to the governor's conference and said, I know of all you governors that's been complicit with the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, and I know you have some plans. I have a report card of how complicit you all have been, that what the Chinese Communist Party have graded you between A to F to see how complicit you have been with China. Remember, Trump kept calling the virus the China virus? He said, I'm urging you to do the right thing. He said, I'm a former CIA director. I know all you've been involved in. I've investigated all you governors. February 2020, do the right thing, or else you're going to face my wrath. February 8, 2020, you can look it up. Mike Pompeo speaks at the governor's conference. Look it up on YouTube. Beautiful speech. I caught it when it was happening. I reported on it. I was like, oh, when he say do the right thing, he means don't allow whatever they have planned with this new virus to happen. Here comes March. We just heard about it in November 2019. Mike Pompeo spoke to the governor's conference in February. All the whole time, Trump was saying this was manufactured in China. Little did we know it was also manufactured in Ukraine, allegedly. This is a disease that's trying to take us out. Do not do whatever they tell you to do. A mandate is not a law. Mike Pompeo spoke to the governors February. By March, the whole world was shut down. We had just heard about it in November. 4 months, little by little. And then all at once, the whole world was shut down and you couldn't go outside. There was a curfew put on everybody. The schools were closed. Children were all of a sudden doing instruction at home. They didn't know what was happening. The teachers didn't know. The parents didn't get a notification. Stores all of a sudden were low on inventory. People were told to go home. People showed up at work, were told to go back home. People got emails. The truckers, they were the only ones. Some of them got notice like right before the shutdown that they can be on the street in case of an emergency or in case of a curfew. Because my son got the notification. He was like, Mom, I don't know what's going on here. We just got a notification as a trucker that we can be on the street in case of a curfew. He's like, what do they mean in case of a curfew? So if people think that something can't happen like that, to sit us all down, to have an emergency broadcast system announcement that the government is formally and officially closed, that there will be no more welfare benefits because the government has no money, that our borders are closed because the United States Incorporated is insolvent. It can happen like that. You can go to sleep on Sunday and wake up Monday morning to a whole new reality. But it's not like we didn't see the signs. It's not like people haven't been saying silver and gold are going to reach the moon. It's not like people didn't say at some point the United States government has to collapse because they're running out of money and countries are dropping United States Treasury bonds. It's not like some of us haven't been saying for years that there was something called Project Sandman, a secret agreement between all 209 nations to, when triggered, stop trading with the dollar and use their own local currencies backed by precious metals. And then little by little, one by one, nations started repatriating their gold back to themselves, saying publicly, I'm going to get rid of corruption out of my country. We saw countries seceding to Trump, doing sword dances before him, the Arab nations, as if he was the king. We saw Queen Elizabeth usher him when he went to visit her in front of her, right? We've seen her shape shift and see that she was a reptilian. We saw President Trump inspect a guard when he went to visit Queen Elizabeth, and when they panned the camera into the military, it wasn't her military, it was the United States military on their ground. We saw that. We saw at, I believe it was one of the Bush's funeral, one of the president's funeral, all of the presidents, former presidents that were there and politicians received some type of secret notice. And we saw the camera pan into all of their faces of the president, former presidents, first ladies, and politicians. When they got this letter, as they were opening it, their faces looked horrified. And we knew then that the military was letting them know your time is up. We reported on the military tribunals that was occurring in 2018, and you could watch them on CVine.net. Back then, we told people about the notable resignation list since before 2020. And now you can see that resignation list on resignation.info. People called us crazy. It's not like it's going to happen all at once. It's like it's been happening, like Andy Schectman said it would, little by little, and then all at once. People were also forewarned about immigration. Why do you think VAWA applications increased by over thousands of percentage? And it wasn't just women saying, I need a Violence Against Women Act application so I can apply for the green card without my husband. I can circumvent the arrangement that he and I had, as he's the United States citizen or he's the American. I can just say he violated me or was mean to me. It's not just the wives doing that. Now husbands are filing for a Violence Against Women Act green card. Children are saying their parents are abusing them. Parents are saying their children abuse. It went up by 2,200% because they knew their time was up. Oh, it didn't happen all at once. They knew their time was up, and they thought the attorneys that were working for the British Accredited Registry that had colluded with the deep state would allow this to continue. And they thought the judges or the administrators, more correctly put, would allow this to continue on. They knew it. Because President Trump has never minced his words. And see, he understands the art of war. You court gossip. You make yourself larger than life. You court scandal. You go along with their schemes. You let them talk about you. You play dumb. You play along. But you're a master chess player. You're an economist. You're not a politician. You understand and understand economics, finances, bankruptcies, chess. So you make yourself larger than life, court scandal, play along with their games, and then bam, all at once, you come out and you slam them. Checkmate. The Art of War. How many people have read The Art of War? How many people have read 48 Laws of Power? How many people have read or have perused through the book that talks about military operations? How many people in the congregation here or in the chat understand something about chess? Now, I'm not a chess master. Some of you are. And you know what the ultimate goal of the game is. Checkmate. This isn't something that's new that's happening. It's just that people played around, had big fun, as Mrs. Cosby said on the Cosby Show when Vanessa went out and she went out with her friends. They went somewhere to hang out, and they were supposed to be at the friend's house, but they snuck to a concert in another city and ended up getting in trouble. Claire Huxtable got a phone call that her daughter was in trouble and her friends. Claire had to get them out of trouble. And when Vanessa and her friends got home, she said, Vanessa, you told me you were out with your friends at your friend's house, but you went to a concert having big fun. Isn't that what you were doing, Vanessa? You were having big fun. Well, how did that work out for you? Vanessa said, but mom. She said, shut it up. That's the first time I ever seen Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show get that irate. Love me some Claire Huxtable. I love the Cosby Show. So many people are having big fun, playing games, not spending their money wisely, not saving, using loopholes to their advantages, not listening to rules, not following instructions, having big fun, leaving their parents' house before they were ready, leaving their marriages because the government could fund them. I'm not talking about people who left because they had to. I'm talking about people who did it because Uncle Sam and Zaddy government would take care of. Big fun. Playing. Traveling to people's countries, overstaying their visas, having big fun. And now I hear some of them online saying, yeah, I got into a little trouble, but I was misdirected when I came to America while you were having big fun. Partying every weekend, going to the clubs, overstaying, hopping from place to place. Getting VAWA visas, Violence Against Women Act, when you knew you weren't abused. And here's the thing, if your person who brought you here, who's financing you, was courteous enough to bring you to this country, and you say we're not getting along, or they're committing violence, why don't you just go back home? I don't get that. Why people should be able to overstay their visa, say I need the government to finance my life because my marriage isn't working long. I mean, if it's violent, if he's abusive or she's abusive, or your parents did you wrong, or your children did you wrong, we get it. But to overstay a visa and get government benefits when you can just go back to, and it's not like people are saying go to the moon, we're sending everybody to Pluto. They're like, go back to your home country. You overstayed your welcome. Like, this is an invasion. It's war. It's war. It's a war tactic that the United States government has used against the American people to allow people to flood our borders, to flood the airspace, to come through tunnels, Some bringing drugs, some trafficking humans, some getting monies to start businesses without hiring the people, some doing some benevolent things, but still overstaying their welcome. That's war. And it doesn't matter if people understand it or not. I'm calling it for what it is. It was war. First, against the prisoners of war, the indigenous people here. People following long enough to know who the indigenous people are. 1828, Webster's definition of American, the copper-colored races discovered by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans. Those are the Americans. Everybody else is a citizen. Citizenship is temporary. It's a shame that the United States Incorporated did not explicitly explain that a citizen is a slave of the United States Corporation. The corporation affords their slaves or their citizens privileges. But when a corporation collapses, there are no more privileges. There's no more statuses to give. All those statuses have to be revoked. And I get what people, but I stayed here and I made families and I did it. All those statuses have to be revoked. No more money, no more funding, no more loopholes, no more judges, no more attorneys to break the law because they're being arrested. And it's not my fault if people don't see it because we've reported enough and shown videos and we've shown articles. But you know what? The Trump administration is going to have to do something to wake the people up. What I admonish the Soul family to do is prepare. Listen, if you find a lawful way to stay in America, do that. Or just go back home and make your country a great nation based on what you've learned here in America. Because some people have literally abandoned their whole tribe and families in their home country. Not only to afford to avail themselves of opportunities here, but to have big fun. Now it's time to face the music because a lot of people back home are not too thrilled about being left behind. Some children have been left behind. I had to talk to some people I knew and be like, why are you trying so hard to stay here illegally when you can find a lawful way? You got children back home. Children that's calling you crying. A wife that's calling you crying while you sleeping with all the women here having big fun. What are you doing? Well, you know, we're here. We're working harder than we work harder than the Americans, is what some people say. You know, all the crying is not really working on the heartstrings of many Americans because we've heard the rhetoric. We work harder than Americans. Americans are lazy. We were told to stay away from the Black community. We heard all that. We've seen the gated communities. People don't want me to talk about it. The gated communities that keep people out. We've seen the beaches that are no longer public. They're for private use only. We know what private use only is. It's for everybody other than Americans. Let's stop playing. We know, we see, we felt, we know about the laws, the redlining. We know about the deed theft that's occurring, where many people classified as JEWSs. Now, this is on YouTube. I didn't even know about it, especially in New York, but in other places are literally stealing homes. It's called deed theft from indigenous Americans. You can look it up. They say most of the deed thefts occurred with minorities or people classified as Black and the poor and elderly, most of whom are the indigenous American copper-colored races discovered by Europeans. Deed theft. An invasion by people who call themselves JEWS, who are really from another landmass. getting benefits and being able to steal our land and go to the courts. And you would look on the videos, they'll say, well, we got court papers, documents that say we can take this land. And I'm just here to get some professionals to look at the land and determine how much it's worth, do an appraisal. Not just them, there is literally in the books deeds that say do not sell the land to black people. Now, if you look it up, they'll say it's illegal. But do you know what? It's still on the books, and you have to go through a lengthy process to remove it from the deed, if you even know it's there. We know what's been done to the prisoners of war, black people here. And some people are saying, look, everybody that's here in the Americas aren't bad. That's not the point. The point is people are here unlawfully. I'm not saying illegally. A lot of people are here illegally because they even overstayed their visa. That's against the United States Incorporated. I'm saying unlawfully because they weren't invited here by the Americans. Unlawfully because the Republic was not acknowledged, and neither was the process acknowledged by the Republic, our lawful government. Unlawful. So it's not even about, well, everybody's not bad here. It's about what's lawful, and it's about what should be done. Why should somebody be allowed to go on somebody's nation, their home, and overstay their welcome? What part of that is people not understanding? What's happening is people got so used to the benefits and so used to being coddled and so used to being able to do whatever they want to do and get away with it, whether it was unlawful or illegal or not, that now that we're reversing things, they're shocked and they don't want to abide by the law. But it's not going to work. There's a new sheriff in town. And the tribes on the land are back in control. Tribes are now taking the land back because they are the stewards, the rightful stewards of the Americas. The United States Incorporated that stole the land from the indigenous people, that people call Negro, colored, black, African American, they're done. Bankrupt, liquidating, being arrested, going through military tribunals. Their overlords that were not human have also been unalived, sent back through portals. That's why we keep hearing about UFOs and alien disclosure, because a lot of our ancestors that seeded us here on this planet, they have returned. And they are bringing recompense, retaliation, and recovery to the people that they seeded on the planet. So now what's right has to be done. The beauty in all of this is that when people return back to their landmass, they're going to return to peace. They're going to return to more equitable terms. They're going to return to a lot of work that needs to be done, but now they have the skills, the assets, the ability, and some of them have the money to rectify the situation that they had in their home countries. And what baffles my mind is when people come to my posts on any of my social media platforms. Somebody just came on my Facebook the other day, and they often have done it through the years, that's not even American, that would say, how can you support Donald Trump? Or anybody that supports this administration is crazy or is a lost soul. My darling, you're not even American. This shouldn't even concern you. What happens with President Donald, it doesn't concern you. And if you don't like it, you can go home. Like, I don't understand. It's not rocket science. Go back home to where you're welcome, to where it's your land, your people, your landmass. You're supposed to be the steward of your land. And if you want to come back lawfully and contribute to the American economy. Just like if I go to anybody else's homeland, I have to assimilate to some extent, learn the language, and offer something to the people. I can't just live off the government. I can't even get a job in most places, most countries, because the jobs are for the people of that landmass. So things are changing. It's a new day. The United States Incorporated has been dismantled, is liquidated, its assets have been frozen. Executive Order 138-13 and 138-18, 138-38 froze the assets of anybody who committed crimes against America. That's why you've seen politicians, entertainers, professional players, and all professional sports are rigged with boots on their leg or with one black eye, because they were in a black eye club. They were all part of secret society, but the boots on their leg was house arrest. They were being tracked and monitored. Their time of that period, 3D, is over. Let's ascend to 5D. Let's ascend to a new reality where we operate in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Okay? Justice means that you're doing what's just, what's fair, what's equitable, what's lawful. Overstaying your time in somebody else's homeland is not lawful. It's not just. It's not correct. It's not right. It's not permissible any longer. So let's ascend by raising our vibrations, staying around positive people, hearing positive news, positive music, watching only things that raise our vibration, that make us feel loving and joyful. Prepare our families by letting them know what's happening. Even if you're American and you're in somebody else's homeland, your time is up. Because everybody is tightening up on immigration. It's not just America. Everybody. Most countries have already been tight. People would go and stay, and then after 90 days or whenever their time was up, they would go and do a border run across the border and then come back and still be very, very humble and make sure they don't get in any trouble, don't commit crimes. When we go to other countries as expatriates or visitors, we, for the most part, are quiet. I mean, Americans. When people cross borders, they're quiet. They try to assimilate. They don't wave their flag vagrantly. And they don't wave their flag at all on somebody else's landmass. But to do it fragrantly, absolutely not. To speak against somebody else's government, absolutely not. The people that speak against Donald Trump, the Trump administration, USCIS, immigration, ICE, or anybody here, call Trump names, the orange man, call him this and that. They wouldn't do that in their own country. They get very arrogant when they come over here. You think an American's going to go to Russia and speak against Vladimir Putin? You think an American is going to go to even an African country and wave their flag and protest and say no kings and the government ain't fair and I'm going to stay regardless and I'm going to find loopholes? People don't do that. That's an insanity. Something is going on in somebody's brain that they can flagrantly disrespect somebody else's country. They don't do it in their own countries. But then they come over here, and as the kids used to say, the young people used to say, they act brand new. Now they have the opportunity to correct what they done improperly at home. It's a new day. If you are here and you've overstayed your time, or it's time, because look, even people with green cards are being sent back home. Even the Siberians, erroneously called indigenous or Native American, the ones that, are squatting on the land. Some of them did marry in with our family, but a lot of them actually crossed the Bering Strait. Even they are getting sent back home. You don't look like an Indian to me. You don't look like Indians to Indians, Donald Trump once said. They're getting sent back home. So whether you're here from another country or you're American, you somebody else's country, you need to be finding your way back home. Because if you've broken the law, every nation is tightening up. I should say many nations are tightening up. And they're doing it for everybody's benefit, because in order to get the wealth from the sovereign wealth fund that President Trump has here and the sovereign wealth fund that other nations have and all the funds from the different various trusts that are being released, you have to be in your own land. You have to be a national to receive the wealth, and you have to be in that country. You can't be abroad and receive the benefits. This isn't just about Nasara and Jasara. This is something that all these countries agreed to. You know why? Because the beings that seated us here have deemed it to be so. So it's time to get your families in order and say, hey, our time is up. Let's do things lawfully. Let's come up with a plan. If we can self-deport, or some of the people that overstay here can actually get $1,000 from the Trump administration to go get a ticket to go back home, and $1,000, some of them. We can self-deport. We can call our government, say our time is up. We can call the Trump administration and go home. We can use our own money, because a lot of people here that are here have money. Please don't believe the hype that everybody came over here with only $5 in a dream. How are you going to build up businesses, own hotels, motels, gas stations, motel, hotel, Holiday Inn, gas stations, nail salons, beauty businesses on $1 and a prayer? You did not. Most of them. Why do you think on that pyramid that I constantly show y'all, the East Indians are at the top? Because they came over here with money and they got government benefits. And I go with all this whole list of all these different ethnicities and nationalities that are here that's way on top of the Americans. They're on top of the Caucasian Americans. You got about 6 different nations that's doing better than the Caucasians. They in the middle. Then you got about 6 different more that's under them, and Black Americans, African Americans, colored Negroes, the original, indigenous, aboriginal, mean AB blood, ab means from, original, from the land. They at the very bottom because they were the prisoners of war. So it only makes sense that the moment you recognize this, that you say, look, I've been living off their government. I've been living off their land. I've been living off the resources, or I overstayed my visa. The correct thing to do is to take myself home. So let's have a family meeting and talk about what that's going to look like. Or else we might have to get deported. And if you're American and you're abroad, you need to start rethinking some things and do what's correct. For the rest of the people that are here lawfully, or here because you were born American, you know the system is collapsing. You know the United States government is insolvent. You know the Federal Reserve central banking system no longer exists. It's insolvent. They have to liquidate their assets. You see commercial properties closing, businesses closing, Walmart's closing, banks collapsing, stores shutting their doors, people being laid off, judges showing up to work. They're on YouTube talking about they showed up to work, logged in, and they got an email saying you're fired. Teachers being let go, administrators being let go. If you don't see it and didn't know, I'm telling you now, nurses walking out on a job, nurses being arrested. Look at my video on FBI raids. Judges, attorneys being arrested. Things are changing. Ask yourself, how can I prepare my family for the new reality? What kind of businesses can we start? Because now there are opportunities for us to open up businesses. Now that all these people are leaving our lands or shutting their doors and banks are collapsing, the ones that remain must be Basel III compliant. Andy Scheckman and I talked about what Basel III compliancy mean and the implications of that, meaning they have to recognize gold as a tier 1 asset. And I asked him the question, can you say that means all these things? I said, this is happening, that is happening, that is happening. Look at the video. Can we surmise that we're moving back to the gold standard? And you'll see his answer there. We can see the signs. Why are states now repealing or removing the state sales taxes from the sales of precious metals? 45 states have done so. Only 5 remain that have not pushed forward legislation to stop putting taxes on precious metals. Only 5 are left. Why were they even taxing precious metals to begin with? Because the United States government is unlawful, treasonous. The Constitution for our republic says you cannot tax money. Silver and gold are lawful money. You define the dollar as a fixed weight in gold and a fixed weight in silver. The only thing that can be lawfully used to pay off debt, according to Article 1, Section 10 of our republic, the Constitution for our republic, is silver and gold. So the deep state, United States Incorporated, the Illuminati, the elites, the gangster banksters, the central banking system that allowed for metals to be taxed are getting pushback. States, legislatures are passing legislation. They didn't have to do that. They're just doing it to agree with the Constitution. They're using the tools, just like Donald Trump used the tools of the deep state, signed executive orders to collapse their own system. The states are repealing taxes, passing legislation to repeal taxes on metals, and thus therefore acknowledging silver and gold as legal tender, meaning you can buy local goods and services right now with gold, silver, and gold backs. This is also the reason why now more and more you're hearing about gold backs. And the 20 teens, I was calling them gold RM notes. When people would say, you keep talking about gold, everybody's not rich. I can't. I said, instead of saying what you can't do, ask yourself, how can I? Instead of saying I can afford gold at $4,600, ask yourself, how can I? Because when you ask yourself, how can I afford gold? Then the moment you make up your mind, the universe will conspire to assist you. When you say, I will have gold, then your mind starts looking for opportunities and your subconscious started actually resolving the issue. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So the teacher, Dr. Pruitt, is going to tell you if gold is out of your budget at $4,600 an ounce, you can get a half an ounce. You can get a quarter an ounce. You can get grams. That might be what, $100 and something a gram of gold. You can get gold RM notes, which is 24 karat gold pressed onto a note that's operable right now today as legal tender, where you can buy goods and services with a gold RM note at $9 an hour is how much a gold back costs today. $9 or $10. When I first started talking about gold RM notes or gold backs, they were $1. $1. 24 karat gold. $1. People are saying, I can't afford gold. I said, it's only $1. For $10, I got 10 gold backs. You know how happy I was? On a disability income. But what happened is, instead of saying I can't, I asked myself, how can I? Because my mother never allowed us to say can't. If you said they can't, you got backhand in the mouth. She was strict. She didn't play. Silver is $79 an ounce. That's a dinner for some people. That's way less than a hairdo. Hairdos cost $200 or more. There are women that pay $1,000 to get a hairdo. I know, because I've talked to people who have paid that. At least $165, $150. If you're going to get a silk press, at the very least, you're going to spend $100 in America. Unless you find somebody who will do it for $50 or $75. Instead of getting a silk press, you can buy an ounce of silver. I'm just saying. Or we can give up vices. If you smoke cigarettes, or maybe you drink, or you smoke weed. What if you put that in precious metals or foreign currency? All I'm saying, family, is avail yourselves of the opportunities. The deep state is collapsing. It will happen. It has happened a little by little. But then all at once, one day, you're going to go to sleep. What Andy Sheckman say, you're going to go to sleep on a Sunday and wake up on a Monday morning to a whole new reality. Some of us went to sleep last night when silver was $74 an ounce, and now we woke up to $79 an ounce because at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, the Forex market's open. And you see how gold and silver are trading. You see what some foreign currencies are doing. Avail yourself of the opportunity while you have the chance to talk to your family, do what's correct, do what's lawful. Make a plan and you won't be so shocked. Make a plan and you won't be hurt when you have to actually abide by the law, because all things have to go back to the way they were. So to summarize, things are changing little by little, it seems. But then all at once we're going to wake up and a lot of people are not going to be here. Some people are going to leave through transition, meaning DEATHS. They're going to transition out of here. Some people we won't see anymore because they will agree to stay in the 3D, third dimensional reality. Others of us will ascend to the fifth dimensional reality where our consciousness is rising and we're ascending and we're manifesting things on a high vibrational frequency quickly. Some of people are going to leave and go back to their home countries. Already since Donald Trump has been in office, about 3 million people have been deported. 2 million left self-deported. Something like 800 or 900,000 were deported. 3 million people. One day you're going to wake up and it's going to be more because immigration laws are changing. Again, a lot was permissible under United States Incorporated, but they are not the lawful government. They're a group of bloodline families that coalesced against the American people. Use them as prisoners of war to pay off the debt. Then expanded slavery. The Declaration of Independence was not ending slavery. It was expanding slavery from an individual owning slaves that they call prisoners of war or black people and expanding it to now corporations enslaving everybody through what's called citizenship. And if you were a good little slave, they give you some privileges. Then they went and they caused war on the American people here by allowing other immigrants to come and colonize America through their businesses, through their corporations, giving them opportunities. It's a Machiavellian way of doing things. You read The Prince. Machiavelli talked about how to enslave people and take over a landmass. You can either send in the military or you can bring in other people. You can bring in colonies and set them up in places in another person and let them occupy the land there, give them benefits, and they will do the work of enslaving and colonizing the people for you. I had somebody on my platform the other day said, I didn't know I was what we were doing. Can you not say we're all bad? I didn't say you were all bad. Can you not say some of the things you say? We didn't understand what the government was doing. When you know better, you do better. Now you know. The government used other nations to come here. Yes, some of them, the nations caused war in these other countries and then allowed those people to come here to colonize us. But don't be fooled. Many people that came here, they didn't have they weren't the ones that were struggling. A lot of people that came here. How are you the very poor of the poor and you somehow came to America and you made it and have big businesses? You got some benefits, but no. A lot of people came here with money. Even if you really talk to the people, they'll tell you, oh yeah, we were a part of the mafia over there in my country, or oh yeah, we were a part of the government in my country, or oh yeah, I was an engineer in my country, a lawyer and a doctor. Come on. But the government was in cahoots. It's called brain drain. They literally recruited people, very intelligent people from all over the world, brought them here as if we can't work for ourselves, gave them jobs. It's called colonization. So Machiavelli again, The Prince tells it. You can either send in an army, a military, but it's costly, and the military can they can turn on you. But if you send in a colony or colonies and have them doing the bidding for you and give them all the benefits, let them vote, give them housing, give them food, give them businesses, give them low interest loans, let them have houses either through Section 8 or they can buy a house by just saying they got a transcript that said I attended college or I'm in college right now. I've had award-winning mortgage brokers tell me this. Too bad your children or you wasn't an immigrant, or not, or you're not you're not an undocumented immigrant because I could have helped you, or you was the immigrant that just had a transcript. I could have helped you buy a house with no credit score. It's colonization. It's opportunity for some. It's colonization for others. Why not have a conversation with our family members and say, hey, this is what's happened. This was allowed to happen. We're going to revamp. We're going to redo some things. Because if we don't, it's going to happen anyway. So that's it. Prepare your families. Things are changing. Immigration laws are changing. No more DACA, which was supposed to be deferred action against children that were here. I hear people saying, I'm an adult. I came to America as a child. I was supposed to be protected through DACA. I shouldn't have to go back home. The first word in DACA is deferred. That means temporarily protected. Deferred action for children. DACA, deferred means it's been put on hold. The time is up. No more protection. I don't understand. Like, do people not read? Deferred action literally means you're putting something on hold. So now that you're an adult, you got skills, you got an education, you have experiences. The United States government is saying you can go home now. No, you shouldn't be protected for what? From whom? By whom? The government no longer exists. The government has collapsed, family. It's insolvent. So deferred action, a lot of those people they're going to have to go back home. People that overstayed their visas, people that broke the law. Now, if an immigration attorney says this, people are like, oh, even immigrants in the chat, like, thank you for warning us. Thank you. But if an American says it, then some people take offense. Others will say, thank you. Some will take offense. DACA is being questioned. Birthright citizenship, because it was not for immigrants. It was for the children of African Americans after the Civil War. Through the 14th Amendment were supposed to be granted citizenship, which they should not have been considered citizens anyway, because you cannot be an American and a citizen. Either you're a citizen and a slave of the United States Incorporated, or you're sovereign. You're American. If you sprung from the soil and your people are from this landmass, you weren't supposed to be classified as a citizen. You are a free white person on the land. Brown, copper colored people. White was our status. So that feels so good. So things are changing. Birthright citizenship was not for immigrants. The attorneys and the judges, the administrators allowed that to happen. They used the 14th Amendment that was not meant for them, that was slated for African Americans, so-called Black Negro people. Through the 14th Amendment, their children were supposed to be granted citizen status. So now they have to overturn all that. The attorneys misled people. The administrators erroneously called judges, they misled people. Birthright citizenship is in question. The Native Americans, native born is not the same as natural born. They were getting benefits from the government. Some of them kept the records as they were squatters on the land. Some of them were working, married to Americans, and they were receiving benefits. They got casinos, they got land, they got a lot of stuff. But they also got poison and with alcohol and drugs, because the government didn't like them and treat them well either. They brought them over here, but then mistreated them. Native born is different from natural born. You could be a Native American. Native born means your bloodline came from somebody else, somewhere else, but you were born here. Natural born mean all your peoples came from here. More correctly means you sprung from the soil. The same genetic code that's in the soil is the genetic code that's in your colon. Sprung from the soil. You were seeded here by whatever race of beings or whatever god or gods seeded you here. That's why all the pastors received a notification saying you need to meet with your congregation to tell them that aliens are coming back and your Bible is going to be questioned because aliens seeded humanity on the planet, and all so-called racists are going to figure out and learn which alien race seeded them on the planet. I didn't say this. The pastors are on YouTube testifying that they got a letter from the government saying it's time to tell the truth about the Bible, about the God that they were taught, about religions, and about who really seeded them on the planet. It's coming out. We've been hearing about UFOs, aliens. People been questioning religion little by little by little. And then all at once, it's just going to flood. Open the floodgates of heaven. Let it rain. It's about to rain truth all over this place. So native born and natural born, two different things. So you can be a Native American, but that doesn't mean you're not Native American. You're not Native American. You're native born Siberian. We have many. We got a 1700, 1600, 1800 definition of American that clearly say it's the copper colored races or copper colored peoples discovered by Europeans. Not from Africa. They didn't cross from Africa. They didn't come from those slave ships. We were already here. We migrated out to different places. And you can look at some of the indigenous peoples all over the world. They look like us. A lot of them don't even look like Africans. They look like us. The African race or African people, they could be our cousins. Maybe they were seeded by somebody else. I don't know. Maybe they were us that migrated to a different place. I don't know. But we did not come from African slave ships. Most of us were already here. So that information is coming up as most people awaken. So that's it. It's time for people to really have some serious conversations with themselves and with their family members. Make some decisions because everything's changing. In order to get the wealth from your country, you got to return back home. That's just it. Whether we like it or not, there's going to be no more ducking, dodging, and hiding for the most part. Most people will have to abide by what's lawful. Other people that remain here they'll have to figure out a way how to be squatters or how to get along with the American people. And I'm not even saying everybody got to go home. I'm not saying that. I'm saying either you're American or you're not. A citizen is not an American. A United States legal citizen is not an American. There's no such thing as a legal American. You're either a citizen or you're an American. It's the same in other nations. You might have residency, but that doesn't make you Chinese. You might have a process by which you can legally stay there, but that doesn't make you Chinese. You still can't own the land. You can lease it for 99 years. In some places, you can't even buy a business or start a business. You better give $1 million. Like that gold card Trump is talking about to come here. All nations have done this. Everybody's acting so brand new. Thank you for the gift, the flow state. I love that. Canadians are Americans. Mexicans are Americans. This is the United States of the Americas. Thank you for saying that, Jerry. Still, if you came here unlawfully, you got to go back. Even if you're an American. If you are in the Americas and you came here unlawfully, that's being questioned. But I agree that we have more than this landmass. That's why Trump created the USMAC. Is that what it is? United States, Mexico, and Canada coalition under his first administration. They still have rules though. And I would encourage anybody that says, hey, I can stay here and overstay my visa. I can go to Canada and overstay my visa there because these are the Americas. I would encourage you to follow whatever laws, rules, or whatever they have in place and to claim your nationality or your Americanhood the correct way. Because until they change things, if you say, listen, I'm from Mexico, so I'm just going to stay here, you might find yourself in jail. I've seen it happen, family. We are the only Americans. Everyone else came here. Everyone else came here. And we were here. We were seated here. And the good thing about Americans is we know this. We haven't hurt anybody. We haven't stormed on people's country clubs. We haven't broken in their beaches. We don't break in their buildings. We don't break in their, we're not saying give us our land back and fighting and protest. We haven't done anything despite all the mistreatment we've received, despite the war that the government declared against us as prisoners of war by allowing everybody to come here, despite hearing you guys are lazy, you don't want to work, you guys are this and that, you are the slaves, stay out of my country club, I'm going to block access to your land and your beaches and your country clubs or your mounds. Despite all that, we've not harmed not one person, but we stood and fought with them. Some Americans have turned on their own so-called government and had no King's rallies and yelled and screamed and hollered and fought. So the rhetoric that people are being racist or being mean to immigrants, that needs to stop. Because the Americans, the copper-colored people here, have fought for other people to our own demise. Despite all the hell we've been through from the United States government, despite all we've been through from all these other races of people that are here, ethnicities and nationalities, we've not been rude, mean, disrespectful, or vindictive. And we're not going to start. We're going to continue to operate in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I would encourage those of us who are in our neighborhoods involved in gangs and selling drugs and not doing anything nefarious, dealing with the underground economy, stop immediately. You are to cease and desist all unlawful behavior, all unlawful organizations, all unlawful businesses. Immediately, you are to cease and desist and learn how to operate in integrity so you can operate businesses, banks, and manage and control your wealth and organize your own family. Any behaviors, again, I'll say it one final time, that are unlawful, you are to cease and desist immediately, because you will have opportunities. The land is being returned back to the Americans, to the indigenous people. You will be stewards of your own land. You will operate according to tribal law and communal or common law. You will have peaceful, lawful treaties with any other nations that are lawfully here on the land. You will have access to your birth certificate bond. You will have access to your Treasury Direct account called a TDA account. You will be able to cash in or redeem on the bonds that you have. You will be able to cash out any money or foreign currencies that you have. You will be able to have access to gold and silver and precious metals, rare earth minerals, all that your ancestors deeded to you, left you. You're going to have access to that, but you have to cease and desist unlawful behaviors. It's time to have a discussion with yourself, what people would call a come to Jesus moment. Now, look, I've been operating this way, but it could be because that's all I know. It could be because of any trouble or trauma. It could be because you didn't have opportunities. You didn't know how to avail yourself of opportunities. You are to cease and desist all unlawful ways immediately. And now operate in integrity. Ask the God or gods of your fathers or your ancestors or your elders how to help you correct yourself. It's time for us elders to get on our jobs to correct the people in our tribes and our communities and bring them together and learn how to work together. Because for too long, because we've been oppressed and we've been prisoners of war, we've been acting like it. Some of us have lived off the system, the government system. We're not supposed to live like that. We're supposed to take care of each other. We're not supposed to unalive each other. We're not supposed to sell drugs to one another. We're not supposed to be a part of gangs. We're supposed to love each other, participate in group economics, read about group economics. You don't want to read it, go to YouTube, turn on the video, group economics. Listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. What is group economics? What is powernomics? And figure out a way to practice group economics. That just means that as a family, as a tribe, or as a community, you work together to help each other thrive. So whatever you're good at, that's lawful. Do it. If you're a tailor, make some clothes. You can barter or sell it to people in your community and let the money exchange hands within your community, your neighborhoods, your families, several times before it goes out to other communities, because that's what everybody else does. They practice group economics even in your country. They start a salon, a gas station. They hire their people. They own a business on a low interest loan or no interest loan, but let's say low interest loan, that they get a business open. The government gives them money for 5 years, low interest loan. When that 5 years is up, they call Uncle Tommy from the motherland, from their home country. Tommy, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm in America, living a dream. I own these gas stations. Come and join me. My 5-year low interest bearing loan is up. Now we're going to put the business in your name for 5 years. And then before that gets up, we'll call Uncle Vinny, Aunt Martha, Cousin Louie. See where I'm going? And we'll all live in one house practicing group economics. We're going to force ourselves to get along. And we're all going to pay one mortgage or one rent. And we're going to put our money together, buy this house, have 2, 3, 4 families in here, buy this house, work hard, own a business. And after we paid off this house, then we'll move to the next house, get another house, put all our money together, buy that house. Then part of the family can move in that house. Group economics. When we want to eat, we're going to go to Uncle Vinny's restaurant. When we want to buy cooking supplies, we're going to Auntie Martha's Fresh Market. When we want to go to worship, we're going to go to Father Antonio Velasquez Church, where he gets grants from the government under his 501c3. When we want gas, we're going to go to Uncle Tommy's gas station. You see what I'm saying? And we're going to use the money, the residual that we have to send back home to the home country. Group economics in your country. While we're saying, I don't get along with my mama, my daddy, my sister, my brother, my cousin, my auntie, my uncle, my grandparents. I don't want to live in the same house with them. I get it. Because of all the programming, all the things you've been through, all the oppression, or some of the things that are self-imposed, and some of us don't want to mature. Some of us too self-absorbed. Okay, I'm really not going to blame everything on the government. Some things we just don't want to do. We'd rather live it up and have big fun rather than take care of the family and the tribe. But if you learn how to bring yourself down, love your neighbor, your brother, your family like you love yourself, sacrifice your big fun, and practice group economics, you too can thrive like the others that come to your nation. The ones that laugh and call us lazy and say we don't want to work. Some of us understand that if you go to work for somebody to build up their empire, they're actually accessing your birth certificate, your trust to pay you out of your own trust. We know this. Some of us like, I don't want to work they're going to pay me money out of my own trust? Or I'm building up somebody else's empire. Okay, we get it. But for a moment, you might have to do what you have to do to sacrifice so that you can build up a net worth to leave to your posterity, your children, your future generations. Group economics. Where's the nail salon? Where's the restaurant? Where's the school? We sure got enough churches. Meanwhile, they got bars in our communities, churches on every corner, drugs flooding the streets through the gas stations that aren't even owned by us, but owned by people from the Middle East and elsewhere. That's really the big drug pushers in some communities that's working with the cops, the policy enforcers, and the gangbangers. Some of us allow our sons to sell drugs, etc. We got to stop that. Just having big fun. We need to learn to practice group economics. Money should be flowing through your hands and your family several times before it leaves your community. The Jews practice group economics. The Italians practice group economics. The Mexicans practice group economics. The Cubans practice group economics. The Arabs practice group economics. The Indians practice group economics. The Asians practice. Everybody practices group economics. I know that when you talk about it, you're all of a sudden deemed as racist because anything you do for some reason for all these people, you know, is somehow wrong. But I'm telling you that we need to have a conversation with ourselves, get ourselves, if we've been doing anything that's unlawful, we need to stop it immediately. And we need to figure out a way to operate in integrity. A lot of drug dealers are excellent businessmen. You just need to know how to use those skills to do something lawfully. A lot of people that's operating in the underground community, they understand money. They understand hierarchy. I'm not saying it's a good thing what people are doing. I am vehemently against drugs. I'm vehemently against gangbanging. I do not participate. I don't like it. And I wish the same people that took to the streets talking about hands up, don't shoot, and Black Lives Matter, and I wish they would use that same energy to take down the drug dealers in the community, march on their house and their territory, tell them to stop. That's what I'm saying we need to do. Stop it. Instead of praising the people that's causing havoc in our community, pushing drugs on people's mamas and sisters and cousins and aunties. And there used to be a song, I'm your lover, I'm your friend, I'm your something, I'm your pusher man. And people would sing that. Must have come from a movie. Drug dealing is more than a crime. It's horrid. You're participating in murder. Murder, man. Stop. If anybody's doing, I don't understand why we think it's cool to laud these people that's committing heinous crimes when you can utilize your brain to do something lawful. Now, some people might say, I didn't have the money. People in your family, in your village, we need to create a way. Instead of having big fun and partying and being independent, we need to be thinking about how we can bring our families back and heal them and create businesses. Some people can do hair, some people can do nails, some people can cook, some people are great bakers, some people understand business on a high level. We need to start practicing group economics. Read Powernomics, listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, look up group economics, study the other people, ethnicities, and nations that are in your country. And let's make America great again. America was a thriving empire. These land masses, Turtle Island, Tamaria, was thriving. We had wealth. We wore gold, silver, jewelry, copper, all those things. Lapis lazuli that Orisha Stone made for me. Shout out to Orisha Stone. Find him on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Hit him up. Ask him to make you some stones, jewelry, He made me a beautiful necklace, 24 karat gold. Ask him to make that for you. Rings, artifacts, necklaces, ankhs, whatever resonates with you. If you need gold and silver, contact Andy Sheckman from Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. Like, use these resources, avail yourselves of the opportunity. And if you don't want to go to anybody, then find a way, learn how to get in the gold and silver industry and be that, or at least accumulate gold and silver and open up a family bank. Be the bank for your family. Be the bank. Andy Sheckman talked about that on the Dr. Kia Pruitt show, that show that I aired and premiered earlier today. So that's it, family. A lot's happening. One day we're going to wake up and the world's going to be different, just like we woke up in March and the whole world was shut down. One day we're going to wake up and the world's going to be amazing and beautiful. And if you're prepared, you'll be able to participate in a way that other people won't be ready for. It starts right here, getting our mind right, getting our heart right, doing what's just, doing what's fair, doing what's correct, operating in integrity, doing what's lawful, making our wrongs correct, taking accountability for our lives, our families, our communities, our tribes. That's where it all begins. And then create a business or something for your children and your community. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I've spoken for way longer than I intended. Thank you. Somebody said Dr. Kia Pruitt or Kia Pruitt. You are a real woman. I did. I spoke way longer than I intended. But I trust and I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. For those of you that are like, gosh, you give some long lectures, some long talks, know that oftentimes my son will break up the videos for me. If you go to the video section, you'll see 20 minutes, 30 minutes, usually no longer than an hour videos. Go to the video section, you'll see this where my videos have been broken down. Or you can go to the short section where you see 1 minute snippets or clips saying very important, critical things, messages from my longer videos. I got lots of 1 minute and 2 minute videos. In the short section, I have videos that are less than an hour or hour and less on the video section. And then my lives are generally longer. So I love you, family, with all my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul. Please know that everything I say is in love. Everything I say is because I truly, truly love all of us that are seated on this planet. And it's my desire that we learn to operate in harmony, that we operate in love. The Moors say that there are 5 tenets called love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I love that. I support it. Let's do it. Take care, family. Thank you so much for all the hearts. Thank you for listening. You're welcome. Much love to you. Thank you for all the gifts. Thank you for all the comments. Much gratitude. You're welcome. Sending pure love back to you. Chief Max in the house. I didn't see you, Chief. He says drugs were a military operation waged on the indigenous Americans. It was. And then after they got as many of us on drugs as they could, they started flooding other communities. It started with us. I remember when it was a big problem in our community. And then they had a war on drugs, was really a war of drugs, flooding our community with more and more drugs. And then when the drugs started getting into the other communities and it started affecting the middle class, drugs became a real big problem. All of a sudden, the government was concerned because whenever certain communities stop having babies or they start, their numbers start dwindling, the United States corporation would get in a panic, say, we got to do something. But we know what they were doing. They would enslave us as much as they could. Thank you for all the gifts. Hurt us and oppress us as much as they could till they couldn't oppress us any further. Then they went to the so-called white community and did the same thing they did to us. Then they brought migrants from all over the world to colonize us. And their intent was to do the same thing to them. Because the beings in power are not human. They didn't care about any of us. Divide and conquer. Thank you. Thank you for the gifts. Somebody says she's got a PhD. Somebody must have asked what kind of doctor I am. People like to ask that question. Hi, Sister Janine. It's good to see you. Hi, all of you. I see Chief. I see me, Sister Mina, Sister Crystal. I see all of you. I acknowledge you. Sister India, copper colored. I see you. So many of you. So be your own bank. Thank you for all of these hearts. I love these hearts and these gifts. Thank you for the gold coin. Thank you for the copper coin. Thank you. Wow, you all were really going in the comment section. Thank you. Yeah, we're the original copper colored people in the Americas. It's time for us to wake up and stop acting like slaves. Start walking like the kings you are and the queens you are, the gods and the goddesses. Because when we act like gods and goddesses, they'll have to treat us a certain way. They'll have to let go of the things that they've kept away from us. The energy in them will acknowledge the God in you. That's just the way it is. The God in them will acknowledge the God in you. Ellis Island and Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah, so they brought in a lot of people from Ellis Island. They created Cabbage Patch Kids in their labs in order to increase numbers. A lot of the people here on the planet don't even have a soul. That's what they said. The United States government said. I saw a professor, a European professor, maybe he called himself European American, I don't know, do a lecture and said a great percentage of the Caucasians that are here he said Dolores Cannon even said this, a great percentage are either Cabbage Patch children or children created in labs. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, if I said that, people would call me a racist. And so the guy that was questioning him was like, you agree with that? What Dolores Cannon said, he said, absolutely, it's the truth, it's documented. They didn't have enough numbers here to enslave the indigenous people here in the Americas and other places on the planet. So they created Cabbage Patch children, brought them here. Brought children from Ellis Island, some of whom were human, some of them weren't. And a lot of them don't even know that they're walking around without a soul or not born of a woman. It's interesting because if you've read Julius Caesar's, what was the name? I think it was the name of it was Julius Caesar. What was it? Shakespeare's work, where I can't remember where. I think Julius Caesar was killed by Brutus. It was foretold that he would be killed by a man not born of a woman. So Caesar thought he was safe. But this guy said, I was ripped from my mother's womb untimely, so I wasn't born of a woman. But they could have been speaking in code when it said not born of a woman. But yeah, they said that there are a lot of people walking around that are not even human. They were either not human. You're welcome. It's that I can't see LSAP 4493. You're welcome. A lot of people are not human that were here, or some of them are clones, or they're Cabbage Patch children. So I think I got I saw most of your comments. Executive Order 13961. We are in, I can't see that word you said. And I can't see that word. Interrogium? I'm gonna have to look up Executive Order 13961. Somebody tell me what that means if you have time. Blacks, I can't see your full name. Black says, watch the movie They Live, 1988. Dr. Boyce Watkins is good, somebody says. To be fair, I think a large majority of people on the planet are NPCs, non-player characters, is what, I didn't say that. That's what Mindful is saying. Mindful Moments is, I hear you. Doc, you've been working so hard for us lately. Thank you. Please take Memorial Day off. I appreciate you so much. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. You caught one on camera about 4 months ago, Chief Mac? Oh my God. So that's it, family. Follow the Chief Mac show. He's in a comment section. I'm sure he will put his information in the chat if you want to get a hold of Chief Mac and get your trust or for a consultation. Macbeth. It was Macbeth that I'm quoting, where was it Julius Caesar that was unalived Brutus? I had to do a monologue and in front of class, and I had to do a speech from Brutus, and he said, I can't remember all the speech. No, was it him? He said, "Is this the clutch? Is this the clutch that I see before me? Is this the dagger that I see before me? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, yet I see thee still." Now, that might have been Brutus who said that, but I had to do a monologue from one of them. Is this the something that I see before me? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, yet I see thee still. I think I was like 15 when I did that speech in front of my class. But the part of that Macbeth that really stuck out to me is when Julius Caesar was dying and he looked up at his best friend Brutus and he said, "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus?" Oh man, I used to love reading plays, doing the monologues, doing speeches. I took persuasive speech. I took all type of public speaking in high school. Learned how to debate. I took English very seriously from the time I was in elementary, middle school, college, all the way up. I learned how to do research papers. I learned how to not only read and do reports, but do research papers. In fact, I had a conversation with Chief Mac yesterday. You know this, Chief. You can vouch for this. Because I say, Chief, people keep talking about against education. And I know education really does program and propagandize us. But I'm very grateful for the education that I had because I was intentional that everything I learned how to read, I learned how to write, I learned how to do public speaking. I learned parts of speech, all of that. Even I remember things I learned in 6th grade I use to this day. Parts of speech I use to this day. How to break down sentences. How I was learning about etymology in elementary school. They didn't call it etymology at the time. Learning the origin of words, breaking down things, using it in context. My mom had me reading dictionaries and encyclopedias before I started school. I didn't even go to kindergarten. I went straight to 1st grade or skipped something. I might have skipped 1st grade. But I knew how to read before I started school. We had to read encyclopedias, dictionaries, and do reports from my mom. Write them out. We had to read newspapers back then. And we had to do critical writing, critical essays, a critical thinking piece where you read articles that my mom cut out of the newspaper, or that she would just give us newspaper, say, take an article out, or an excerpt from the encyclopedia, or we read the dictionary many times from A to Z. But you had to do a critical thinking piece often from my mom, where you read something, report on it, and then respond to what you thought of it, how you would use it to improve your life, how you see yourself operating within that context in the future. My mom had me at 14. She got pregnant at 14, had me at 15. So I value all of that. When I went to college, I took economics, sociology, psychology, and political science classes. I also took education class, education first, because I thought I was going to be a teacher. All the books that I read on psychology and education, I used to raise my children. I know about Alfred Adler, who talks about childbirth order. I use that to raise my children and to teach people how to deal with their children. I learned Sigmund Freud. He had some sick things that he said, but a lot of stuff he said made sense in psychology. I learned from Abraham Maslow, a humanistic psychologist that talked about human needs, how there's his hierarchy of needs, how you have at the very base of the pyramid, biological needs, water and food, and sex for many people. That's a human need. Those have to be achieved before you can move up to the next level, which is safety and security. After you have food at the bottom of the pyramid, then safety and security, then you feel good and you can have self-esteem. Then above that, then you have love and belonging. But it's hard to have a sense of community and love and belonging if you don't have self-esteem, because you don't have food and you don't have shelter, basic human needs. And then above human love and belonging, then you have self-actualization. That's when you can operate at maximum capacity, actually operating in your purpose, because you've already dealt with your basic human needs at the base of the pyramid: food, water, sex, safety, shelter. Above that, love and belonging. No, self-esteem, because you feel good because you got all your needs met. Love and belonging. Now you're part of a community. Self-actualization. Now that I've had all my human needs met, I know how to belong. I know how to operate in self-esteem. I can be highly self-actualized. I utilize those to frame how I raise my children, how I worked with my husband, how I operate in my community, how I counseled people, how I coached people. Then there was another person that came and revisited Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he said, there's a higher place that you can be other than self-actualization. That's called transcendence, when you teach other people how to self-actualize. So a lot of people that's made it now that they've been on my show, I operate as a highly self-actualized, transcendent person, taught them how to become highly self-actualized. And now they have businesses, and now they have podcasts, and now they operate a certain way. I didn't teach them everything they know, but I helped them because of who I am. I operate in transcendence as a highly self-actualized individual. Now it's my job to teach other people how to become highly self-actualized. Abraham Maslow. I'm just saying, I know public education may not have been the best, but if you utilize it for your good and you're intentional, you'll find a way. I learned from somebody I spoke of the other day, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, that no matter how much pressure you have, no matter how much pain, no matter how much trauma, how hungry you are, if you have meaning, purpose, you can transcend it. Just by knowing your purpose and willing yourself out of your circumstances. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist. According to his books, Man's Search for Meaning, other books, he went through internment camps where he was brutalized, mistreated, abused, starved. People all around him were dying, hungry. He should have died in an internment camp, but he knew he had a purpose. He willed himself. He said, they can destroy my body, but they can't destroy my soul. They can destroy my body, but they can't destroy my will to live or my purpose. I read Man's Search for Meaning. I read Viktor Frankl's work. He was from, I was Austrian. I don't even know what Austria is or what it means. Is it German? I don't know what it is. He taught me in his works. He doesn't classify or look like a black person. That book taught me to rise above your circumstances. Even though I was raised, born, and bred in the projects of Cleveland, Ohio, with a fence all around us, and my mom was on the projects at 15, and my dad was strung out on heroin at 17, even though his family was intact and they had business, I rose above my circumstances. I said, I don't care what they do to my people. Everybody around me is on drugs. My mom had the presence of mind to teach us how to read. She joined the Nation of Islam to teach us how to have discipline, order, and structure, how to eat to live, how to think critically. They taught the men how to be men, the women how to be feminine, how to run a house. When a man went out and created businesses. 15, my mother was. She said, you're going to do better than I. She would make us write reports after we read books and encyclopedias and say, write this report, and it better be perfect. And if it had one mark, she'd rip it up and say, do it again. 15 when she had me. I value who I am and what I have. So when people ask, what kind of degree you got? What PhD, master's degree, above graduate education, more graduate education, above that, the master's, bachelor's degree, certified life coach, certified credit repair specialist, wealth ambassador, independent sales consultant for Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. I didn't get that job because I'm cute. I got that job because I'm educated, because I'm poised, because I love humanity, because of the energy that I exude. I was taught by my mom how to operate a certain way, how to have etiquette, how to have poise. But I was educated in the school system about how to speak to people, how to lecture, how to have persuasive speeches, how to defend every argument on every side, how to write sentences. That's why I was able to write a book called Become the Person You Wish to Attract. I wrote for the San Francisco Examiner and the Sacramento Examiner as a relationship expert, which is really interesting. I had many blogs when blog writing was the thing, many blogs helping people. Personal development expert is what they called me. From the books that I read Stephen Covey's work. I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I utilized the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read it, I recreated it, repackaged it, named it something myself, and taught it to pre-medical students and took them through professional development courses after I taught the verbal reasoning component of the medical college admissions test and the dental admissions test. But I couldn't do that until I learned how to read and study at a higher level and research. I'm not in medicine. I taught them how to pass these tests in order to get in the medicine and dentistry. Then I created the summer medical and dental education program. I coordinated medical programs, dental programs, summer school programs. I wrote the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation grant, securing $1.6 million for the University of Louisville. I've done symposiums, all that because of the books I read, the education, the training. I read books on how to deal with parents when I was studying to be a teacher. I went on to do teaching later on in life as a sub and as a teacher of the school we created. But they taught us how to deal with parents, upper middle class parents, right? They said you got to deal with those parents differently than you deal with poor parents, because upper middle class parents tell you how to teach their children. They volunteer in their schools. They operate this way. This is what the books would say. So I said, I'm going to be like those parents. I'm going to learn how to work with those parents. I'm going to learn to be like those. I'm going to be very intentional. I'm going to teach the teachers how to teach my children. Like everything I learned, psychology, sociology, economics, political science, all that I use today. Because we were taught that college education was not a right. It was a privilege. So you better get while getting is good and get all you can to help humanity. Now, if you grew up in a community classified as Black, you were taught this degree ain't for you. It's for the community. It's for the family. So you get to that school, you learn all you can, you bring that information back to make your family better, to make your community better. And I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, but then in Portsmouth, Ohio. So your family, your community wasn't just people that looked like you. It was people that married into the family. Some of them was Caucasian, some of them was Asian, some of them was this, that. You make your community better. That education degree is for the family. You see, so people ask, what your education don't mean? No, I am very sensitive about that. Just like you sensitive, if you're an artist, if you are a lecturer, or you are a writer, whatever, like you're sensitive about your, I'm very, I am, because I worked hard for every degree that I have. And I was intentional because I knew my purpose was to liberate humanity. So I was very intentional about taking everything in, even history, even being miseducated with the history. I'm going to read it, and I used to love it. But I utilized the history, even if it was miseducation, to inform me of how other people fought. And I utilized that information sometimes to debate it when I wrote my research papers, or to agree or disagree. But learning speech and public speaking and being able to argue both sides or all sides and use critical thinking informed me even when I read books that were miseducation for how I would write my critical thinking piece on my reports. So, yes, I have a doctorate of philosophy, and I've already talked many times about what you have to do that. You have to pass all your exam. You have to go and you have to write, pass comprehensive exam 4 days, for a few hours, 3 days, with no books, without any books, excuse me. And then you have to actually conduct research and write a research paper, to conduct your own experiment using qualitative, quantitative reasoning or purposes, methodologies, or both. And you have to present it before your esteemed tenured professor, highly acclaimed professors graduating from top universities. You have to defend it. You have to give an answer for every question they brought as they would critique you. Tell you your work is not good enough, go back several times. You're under a lot of pressure, a lot of work. While everybody's kiki kakan having big fun, some people are working and helping to sustain their family. Some people are traveling, having big fun, playing around, I was studying while raising a family, while doing ministry. At one time, I told my children, I said, one time I had 13 ministries under me that I was responsible for while I was working on my PhD program, working in medical school, getting superior ratings. But I know my purpose. It's all in my name. Be mindful of what you name your children. And if you send them anywhere to get an education, it hopefully is close to you where you can check in on them. And you can help them, or you'll create the schools. But make sure that you're right there. So my children went to college, but they went in my backyard at the university that I worked at, in which I worked. They got academic scholarships, but they also were able to get it free. So all those African academic scholarships was extra money because I worked there. So because I worked at the university, they went for free. And they were like, oh, I'm thinking about this school, that school. And I gave them the illusion of choice. But at the end of the day, you're going to do what mama says. Mama said you're going to go to the school that mama works at, because that's what's best for you. And then mama going to call the recruiters, the housing, the food people, everybody, and say, make sure they have the best experience because they've done the work. I made sure they graduated with above a 4.0 GPA from honors and advanced classes, because I was right there teaching them. Or when they went to public schools, I was right there volunteering in the schools, actually teaching some classes, and at the very least going to lunch. And I won Parent of the Year, as many of you have done, because I created the extracurricular activities for my children and the schools in which they participated. I take education very, very seriously. I take higher education very, very seriously, and I utilize all that I've learned to inform my practices, to write my books. The next book that I'm doing right now is in publication, is actually in the editor's office, being critiqued about how to, it talks about the history of money. It talks about BRICS. It talks about the global currency reset, revaluation of currency. It talks about a lot of things and how to accumulate wealth, how to protect your wealth. And it talks about how to have family governance meetings in order to teach these things to your family members, to cast your personal vision to your family, bring them on board, and make sure that you leave a legacy behind. Thank you so much for listening to me. I look forward to presenting my book before you. I look forward to working with all of you all and encouraging you and strengthening you and uplifting you all more in the future. Happy holidays, happy Sunday, happy Memorial Day. I love you so much. Peace.